Welcome to the Voices in Recovery podcast. Voices in Recovery is produced by Freedom's Path Recovery Society, a registered Canadian charity. If you enjoy the podcast, please consider a donation at www.freedomspathrecoverysociety.ca. All donations go directly to assisting Freedom's Path in providing services free of charge and helps us keep the podcast going. We are grateful for any and all donations. This podcast discusses difficult topics such as childhood abuse, drug and alcohol use, sexuality, sexualized trauma, and more. If you are under the age of 18, please speak with your legal guardian prior to listening. The opinions expressed during the podcast are those of the individual and not those of Voices in Recovery or Freedom's Path Recovery Society. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the podcast.
This podcast is being recorded on the traditional land of the Blackfoot Confederacy. This consists of the Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, and the Blackfeet in the U.S. We acknowledge the Stoney Nakoda, which consists of the Bearspaw, Morley, and Chiniki. We acknowledge the Tsuut'ina Huadene and the Métis, Inuit, status and non-status from all of Turtle Island, and those who are visiting. We are all treaty people.
So welcome, Adam. This honestly, I haven't thought of much else since our phone call. Like your experience has just been, and then of course reading the imprisoned blogger and of course the encampments. Your story is so incredible. I'm just going to let you tell it. So hopefully that's okay. But welcome to Voices in Recovery podcast.
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate the fact that you said that you haven't thought about anything but my story. That actually makes me a little bit more humble because I don't think I'm that worthy. I might be one lesson I learned from my story. I learned this firsthand is that while I might be the main character in the story, I'm not in charge, and so I'm just the guy that things are happening to. That just happens to be that way.
Yeah, that's a quite an incredible way to describe it, actually, considering everything, And I'm actually not surprised that you don't feel like your story is maybe you don't feel like it's incredibly special. The reason I say it's special, not necessarily, obviously not in a positive way for you, because you are literally at the whim and call of our government. And that is just disgusting how they've treated you. So pardon me, I will try not to interrupt, but you're like, there's just so much. Anyway, please.
No, go ahead and interrupt. And I actually, the story is so complex, it's difficult to know where to start.
For
But
sure.
maybe the easiest way is to start maybe by giving a metaphor and then telling the story from the beginning.
For
So
sure. Please.
if to start, first of all, I'm just a Palestinian refugee. I'm a nobody to start with, and I should have been nothing special in the history of Canada until they decided about 10 years ago to infringe on my freedom of expression. In today's age, I'm going to use a metaphor, I'm going to compare it to a story in contemporary media, which is the story of Mahmoud Khalil in the US. So if you are to understand my story, it's very similar to that of Mahmoud Khalil, but about 10 years ago and in Canada. So I think that's a good way to sum it. But if we want
I
to,
agree.
yeah, if we want to start, and people are often shocked, like, oh, well, Canada's better. Canada doesn't do this.
Yeah.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news. And
Yeah, and people have a hard time hearing that about Canada. And honestly, no matter who it's from, right? I think that's why, like, one of the reasons why, of course, there's so many reasons why your story is important, but that's one of the things that I've noticed in Canada is there's a lot of resistance to the fact that, first of all, what's happening in Palestine is a genocide, and what's happened here to Indigenous folks is an attempted genocide. And so like that, and there's a lot of Canadians that just don't want to connect the dots, right? Because then they have to accept the fact that we are a part of an apartheid state. and we have
Yes.
been. Yeah,
S-
that's a good
So
point.
so now I don't know if I should start from like maybe a little bit of introduction of my childhood and who I was.
For
That's
sure.
in place. I don't need to go into details on how I was brought up and
Mhm.
where I was. That'll just bore everybody. I mean, I could make it entertaining, but you want to
I,
have a
I
yes.
I doubt you're boring. I doubt it. Yeah.
So I'm the son of a Palestinian family in diaspora, which means a Palestinian family displaced out of uh, the area just outside of Jerusalem. My home village is known as Al Walaja, and Al Walaja was ethnically cleansed in 1948, and most of its population fled to either Jordan or Jericho or other places. Uh, I myself was born in United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi. And that made me a person with somewhat unclear documentation status wise because and most in Canada, if you're born in Canada, you're a citizen of Canada. In UAE, if you're born in UAE, the government of UAE will ask your parents' respective embassies to to issue you documentation. In the case of a
Yeah.
Palestinian in the 1980s, you can see the problem.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I think that, yeah, the xenophobia in the 80s could only be compared to what it is now. And maybe it's been that
Well,
way.
not only that, there was no recognition of any official Palestinian statehood, symbolic or otherwise.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
Which is absolute insanity if you know the history of the region. Like it's just
yes,
insanity. Yeah.
let's not get started talking about the Arab regimes. Uh, so,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I grew up, but that's good. It's good to bring that up because I grew up in
Mhm.
that environment. And so I grew up in UAE in the 80s, 90s, watching not only the Palestinian issue, which I
Mhm.
have deep ties to family members that have been subjected to multiple levels of the oppression. And at the same time, I'm watching starving Somalia, a problem in Yemen, Bosnia, other conflicts around the globe, and as
Mhm.
a Palestinian, I'm identifying with all of these
Yeah.
problems, and I always notice that these people in all of these conflicts, Palestinians, Somalis, Yemen, are being spoken
Mhm.
about, but never have the voice out there.
Oh,
And
that's
so
right.
since childhood, I had this desire to be the voice for the downtrodden.
Mhm.
And I identified with people from different background, as long as they had a just struggle.
Mhm.
And obviously, life goes on. I go to the
Mhm.
US. I end
Yeah.
up starting my college education and flounder in a very American-like lifestyle. Uh, While my upbringing was in in a Muslim household, I myself was not very religious. You have a bigger beard than I do, as I see.
And my beard has nothing to do with religion.
I know
It's just
that, but
because
I'm just
yeah,
stating,
it,
pointing out that
yeah,
yeah.
my
Uh,
beard is just to cover up my ugly face. That's
I,
why my beard's here.
Mine is more like laziness. I don't want to shave every day.
That too.
So,
Yeah.
uh, now I stayed in the US and I was working and studying and bouncing back between college and work. And then something really significant happened in world events that changed the world. Sig and we even talk about prior to and since, and it's September 11th.
Mhm.
And the attitude towards Middle Eastern Arab immigrants in the US. Even some Indians that are Sikh got attacked just
Yeah.
because the racists are usually uneducated. And
Mhm.
so I chose to come to Canada. I came to Canada and I, as a Palestinian, a stateless person, requested political asylum because I did not recognize my second-class Jordanian citizenship, and I turned it in, and I had refugee status in Canada. Everything was fine as long as I
Hmm.
wasn't uh, politically active. I was working. So I entered Canada in 2003, and I did the transient gypsy worker type of work. I'd go where the work is. I worked in the construction and in the oil field industry. I went from uh, Fort St. John, for example, working on a hospital, to Vernon, to eventually working in sorry, and I said Fort St. I started in Grand Forks, for example, working on a hospital,
Hmm.
and then I went to Vernon, and then eventually I ended up in Fort St. John up north, working in the oil field in the winter, and in the summer I would be doing construction. In uh, in one of these years, while I was out in the oil field in the middle of nowhere, uh, this is actually some side story, but interesting.
Yeah,
For a
please.
desert creature that was born in United Arab Emirates that took a job up in the oil field, first winter that far north,
That's
and
gutsy. Yeah,
sorry,
that's
yes,
gutsy. Yeah.
and the company decided to send this guy further north to the, I think it's called the Helmet oil field, which is right on the border of BC, Northwest, and Yukon, right on that
Okay.
edge.
Yeah.
And we get there, and the first day we wake up, and I get into the car, into the company truck, and you know how it has a temperature gauge, and it
Hmm.
says minus 45
Oh my
on the
God.
way to work. And I'm like, I've never seen that. And I'm excited. It's pretty cool. I've
Oh,
never
really?
seen
Okay,
it.
you're
It's like
excited.
a
I
new
would have
experience.
quit.
It's a new experience, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then the
fair
very
enough.
next day, minus 47. And the very next day,
Wow.
minus 48. And the very next day, and then it was minus 50, I think, one morning, or minus
Yeah.
49. And we went there, and the equipment wouldn't operate. And then so
Hmm.
we packed it in for the day and stayed in camp. Uh, that was
That's
an ex
cold.
That's cold. That's
Yeah.
extremely cold. I recall in a warmer day, like where it was minus 35, a coworker of mine asked me to go warm up because he saw frostbite on my face. Yeah,
Oh,
that's how cold.
wow.
That's well with the wind.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so back to the story. I,
Hmm.
you can edit that out.
No, no, I love that. I mean, this is just a conversation, right? We get to have a chat.
But
So,
that was my life. I'm working in the
yeah.
oil field, doing and then
Hmm.
I'm sitting in camp one day, and I read about people rising up against Hosni Mubarak, Ben Ali and Hosni Mubarak. And when Ben Ali was toppled, I was the Arab Spring. I'm talking about the area, the time called the Arab Spring, where the Arabs
Hmm.
revolted against their
Oh,
dictatorships.
oppressors. Yeah.
Yes, and rightfully so. And then
Yeah.
in the case of Tunisia, with the very initial quick success and the when Ben Ali escaped, and then right away there was uprising in Egypt. And this is funny, but I grew up believing that Hosni Mubarak was the fourth pyramid, that I will die and he
Oh,
will still be there.
yeah.
That's
Right on.
I believe that, like
Yeah.
the guy would always win by 99.999% election wise. And it's
Yeah.
just so when the people toppled Mubarak, I was very inspired.
Mm.
And I was, okay, what's my role as a person who, I told you how I grew up and how I aspire to speak on behalf of everybody.
Mm.
And I knew that, for example, in the case of Egypt, Western government, Western media, like if you look at how the U.S. reported about the Egyptian uprising, they were pro Mubarak and trying to, they only became friendly to the democratically elected or the choice of the Egyptian people after the change has happened. But they would have preferred for the dictators to stay. So I felt like I had
Because
a
the
duty.
dictators serve the U.S. interest, right?
Of course, that they're
Yeah,
installed
yeah,
by the US.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Well,
So,
lots of our listeners might not understand that part of history, that the U.S. was involved in
and
basically manipulating the whole Middle East with their dictators and stuff like that.
so the reason the Arab population revolted is that
Hmm.
every single Arab government is a puppet of some foreign interest. They might not
Hmm.
all work for the US. Like, for
Yeah.
example, the Jordanian monarchy.
Hmm.
That's a puppet of the British monarchy. In
Hmm.
fact, there's mixed blood between these two.
Hmm.
Where if you look at Syria at the time of Al-Assad, that was a proxy of Russia slash Iran.
Yeah.
Uh, if you look at, for example, the influence of France and Lebanon. Uh,
Hmm.
so none of these governments represented the people, but represented
Hmm.
foreign colonizers and foreign oppressors.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's why the people revolted. They wanted to vote their own governments. And in the case of Egypt, if we
Hmm.
go back to that,
Yeah.
the people actually had one freely democratically elected government, and the guy
Hmm.
was president for a year, and he later subsequently was a subject of a military coup by the current Egyptian dictator Abdel Fattah al-Sisi,
Hmm.
Trump's favorite dictator. And
Oh my goodness.
yes, and Mohammed Morsi, sadly, bless his soul, died in prison of medical negligence. And anyway, so that's the environment in which
Mhm.
I'm blogging, and I'm
Yeah.
starting to. I felt that I have a duty, that I
Hmm.
understand this, the geopolitics of the region, and I also speak Arabic and English. I think I speak fluent English. I mean, with a lot of
Oh,
flaws.
absolutely. I think you probably speak better English than I do, to be honest.
Uh, mm, Up for
Yeah.
debate. I make a lot
Yeah.
of grammatical errors.
Same.
So, I felt that I could explore that niche of
Hmm.
understanding both languages and understanding the politics of North America as much as I understand the geopolitics and politics of the Middle East, that I can
Hmm.
explain to a Western audience uh, what's going on in the Middle East. I also thought that I could maybe engage in a debate with my family and relatives so they can be more effective in the changes that are happening in the Middle East. Uh, so I started blogging in both languages. So I had two separate sets of audiences, and then I also had one news blog that was running. Well, that somehow devolves into a number, but we can get into that how that happens. But I had a news blog that was dedicated to posting the same thing in exact word, like as possible as I can, exact translation, Arabic English. If you're reading the Arabic text, you're getting exactly what I'm doing in
Hmm.
English. And this is back in 2011, 12, 13, 14, back
Hmm.
when Google Translate was extremely terrible. I mean,
Oh, yeah, the infant stages of that, hey?
yes, and
Yeah.
back when blogging was a new thing. So
Hmm.
uh, I gathered a following, and I didn't gather a following because my knowledge was something special. No, every post of mine was more inquisitive than
Hmm.
me dictating information at you.
Yeah.
I'm asking the same questions that anyone that's trying to understand the conflict would ask. What I would do is I would dig deeper into the news sources and
Hmm.
read both ends of the spectrum and try to discern what's true and what's propaganda out of what's in front of me. And I gained an audience, and I
Hmm.
gained a number of activists who worked along with me from multitude of these different countries,
Hmm.
Libya, Tunisia, Syria, uh, and Egypt,
Hmm.
even Afghanistan, because they thought their voice was not coming out. Here's a
Because
channel
it's
that
not.
here's
Yeah.
a channel that is trying to say it in English.
Hmm.
And in fact, I was overwhelmed. I'm not a journalist. I'm not an actual blog. I'm a construction guy, an oil field.
I think maybe you've discovered that you're also an artist and a writer. Yeah.
Well, we
Also,
will put
as
that
well as
aside.
a construction guy. Yeah.
Yeah, like a guy that is taking, I'm a jack of all trades, a guy that's taken
Fair
multiple
enough.
trades that I can
Hmm.
do in construction and work and making a living. And in my part-time, I'm blogging. And events are bigger than me. And
Hmm.
I have no control over anything.
Yeah.
And I'm just blogging.
Yeah.
And one day, that was the RCMP on my door. To be specific, it was November the 19th of 2014. And I opened the door to two constables from the local RCMP detachment in Fort St. John, British Columbia. And they literally asked me, like they said, "Hey, we come across some of your blog postings, and we just want to identify that it's whether these are something that you do, and we do have concerns about some of this because it does discuss topics that are terrorism and related to that, and it could be misunderstood." That was the constables, and my reaction was exactly what you would think. Get the fuck out of
Yeah.
here. This is a
Yeah,
political.
totally. Yeah, that's some bullshit you're selling and I'm not buying, is what I would have
Yeah, I'm
said.
like,
Yeah.
get the fuck out of here. This is no, no. I said to him, this is a political blog. You're an
Yeah.
RCMP constable. You
Yeah.
got nothing to do with this. And one of them was polite. The other guy was a rookie, shaking in his boots. And side note.
Yeah. They were sent by CSIS for
Oh,
sure.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we
Yeah.
will get into the juicy pieces stuff later on,
Yeah.
and the incompetence of Canadian law enforcement.
Oh my goodness. This is going to be a great talk because they are
Do
incredibly
you see
incompetent.
my?
Yeah.
Do you see how long my beard is? What would you describe to your audience? How short or long would you say my?
It's, I would say your beard is like, I'm going to go ahead and say like maybe a couple weeks growth, right? Where you
Yeah,
just kind of let it, yeah.
like
So pretty short. It's pretty
between
short.
between a quarter to a half an inch, you'd say the longest hair is about half an inch in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
From here for
possibly.
sure. Yeah.
And that's stretching it. That's like pulling the longest hair.
Yeah.
So that was about as long as my beard was during that encounter.
Hmm.
In the RCMP report to Crown Counsel and what they brought into court, their description that when they knocked the door, a Middle Eastern man with a 5 inch long beard walked up and opened the door.
Those are the same cops that think they have 6 inches downstairs, but they only have one.
I never thought of it that way.
They came in there with incredible beard envy. Yeah.
So, so this encounter finishes, and I go
Okay.
back to blogging,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
this nothing happens, no harassment from the RCMP or CSIS or anybody that I
Hmm.
know of on the front, but there
Yeah.
are things happening in the background. We'll get to it now in hindsight. But I'm trying to tell you
Hmm.
the story as it unfolds.
100%. Yeah.
So I receive a phone call on March, uh, the last day of March. What was it? 31st? Let's
I
just say
can't
the last
remember.
day of March,
Fair
because
enough.
the last day of March of 2015,
Mhm.
and well, I received the day before the call a day before that. But what it is two RCMP officers on the phone
Mhm.
identify themselves and say, "Hey, listen." Now they're speaking on behalf of Canada.
Yeah.
And I'm actually gonna it doesn't matter if I name names because all of this is public record.
Yeah, you're welcome to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Lundy and Kowast, the name of these constables, and
Hmm.
every incompetent person that I'm gonna name here eventually got
Yeah.
promoted, even though they were completely incompetent.
Yeah.
So they call me and they say, they're speaking on behalf of Canada, we find ourselves in a conflict that we don't understand, specifically Syria. We have found your blogs and they are extremely informative. Can you please explain to us the conflict? And uh, being a blogger and not a terrorist, I went to with these two guys the very next day, the last day of March, to their choice uh, store in which is Tim Hortons. You know, they need their donuts, and we.
Sorry,
It's
you
very,
got me
very
off guard.
stereotypical.
You caught me off guard with the donut joke. Yeah. Sorry.
We sat for 5 hours in which I thought I was doing Canada a favor. I explained
Hmm.
to them the conflict from A to Z, as I understood it, obviously. Trying to
Hmm.
say, listen, this side is ISIS, this side is Al Qaeda, this side is funded by you, this side is funded by Turkey, this side is
Hmm.
the Hezbollah militias, and
Yeah.
so on and so on. Uh, in hindsight, in trial, we learned that these two constables, their whole purpose was trying to entrap me into saying something.
Yeah.
So that happens, and then on April 1st, they come and talk to me for another 20 minutes, and then they
Hmm.
start. This is when they start asking me about blogs and web pages that are not mine.
Hmm.
Uh, and in hindsight, the cops were trying to say I was running a number of operations, some out of Amsterdam in the Netherlands.
Jesus. Yeah.
But they were asking me about this stuff. I'm like, I know who runs them, but it's not me.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's someone else.
Hmm.
And oh, would you tell us who? No, I'm like, no, I don't think so because you don't need to know. And
Yeah. None of your
obviously,
business.
yeah, in their opinion, that makes me a bad guy.
Yeah. Of course. As
It's
soon as
like
you stop
if you,
cooperating, yeah,
yes, I'm not cooperating with their
yeah,
Gestapo style investigation.
that's right.
Uh, so fast forward another 3 months, I'm still blogging. I
Hmm.
think throughout this conversation the line of freedom of expression gets discussed a few times, and I
Hmm.
assert that listen, I'm on the right side of the law. I have not broken anything. In fact, I'm just discussing events, and I'm not
Hmm.
doing anything illegal. Eventually the courts will agree with me, you know.
Hmm.
And so July mm, July 10th, 2015. I was I was waiting for a friend of mine. I opened the door to the Canadian equivalent of a SWAT team. And in all honesty, I tried to slam the door back in their face. Like nobody,
Yeah. Nice
nobody's
try.
expecting to see. It's not like, oh, I wanted to tell the cops to fuck off. They didn't identify themselves. I
Yeah.
got startled. But they
Yeah.
had a 6 foot, 6 inch behemoth, 300 pound, can take a couple of bullets and keep going through
Mhm.
the door type of guy. They had
Yeah. The
him in
door
the
knocker.
phone.
Yeah. Yeah. The door
And he
knockers
just,
are like human shields.
yes, and his name is gone. And he pushed right through. Then a number of officers beat me up. And these guys know how to beat you up without leaving marks, knees to the
Fucking
side,
cops, man.
knees to the
Yeah.
thighs. And then one of them slammed me against the door, against
Hmm.
the wall, and handcuffed me and walked me out of the apartment door. Now, there was another officer who had one job and one job only, to record the arrest.
Hmm.
So, as a professional in whatever field you do, I know that if I handed you a recorder and I said your job is to record the arrest, where would
Hmm.
you think would you hit the record? When would you hit the record button?
Well, if I'm a police officer, I hit it after they beat you up.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yes, exactly what happened.
Yeah, I used to work with police, so they're pretty shady. I've
So
never met a
Sergeant
criminal as shady.
Dhaliwal,
So
Sergeant who got promoted to Sergeant Dhaliwal, a
yeah.
crook, another RCMP crook, did
Hmm.
not hit the record button until they walked me out of the apartment.
Of course.
But I saw that, and
Mhm.
I saw the recorder. Not that he just hit it on, but in a
Yeah.
spark of genius, or in a I don't know what you want to call it. Could be defense mechanism. I
Hmm.
decided to
Maybe both.
start. I decided to start narrating my arrest. I knew it was going to be
Mhm.
played in front of a judge. So the
Yeah.
first thing you hear in my arrest is like, "Why are you beating me up when I haven't even
Hmm.
resisted?" And
Hmm.
that's the first thing that comes out on the record
Excellent.
before him even speaking up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, uh, anyways, they hand me an arrest warrant. It gets worse. Like this is so bad, right? Every
Yeah.
step it's gonna get worse. They hand me an arrest warrant that has 6 counts of having and making explosives. I still have the
Jesus.
original arrest warrant that they handed me in here.
Yeah.
I will never.
Would you be able or willing to send pictures of that arrest
Yes.
warrant? Because I'll
Uh,
post that with your episode if you don't mind.
but this isn't gonna like it's gonna probably take me today I have a meeting after this, so tomorrow
Oh
or
no, there's
something
no
I'll send
rush.
it to you.
No rush at
But
all,
I do
sir.
have like you will get a copy. So
Nice.
6 counts of having and making explosives.
Wow.
And I'm looking at that, and now my head is just like spinning. Obviously, I'm being arrested. I'm being beat. I'm handed an
Yeah.
arrest warrant with 6 counts. I'm trying to narrate my arrest. It's a
Yeah. Of
chaotic scene. Neighbors are sticking their heads out of their
course.
apartments. Cops shoving them back.
Jeez.
It's just chaos.
Yeah.
And uh,
Yeah. Whenever the tac team knuckle draggers show up, it's chaos. That's all they do.
But
Yeah.
then here's the thing. So I hope that every listener that is listening to this take notes. If you are gonna get arrested, what I did, while might not be a fluke, is a very good way to deal with false arrest. So as I'm narrating my arrest
Hmm.
and as they're dragging me out of the apartment, they start walking me through the back holes and the stairs. I'm still narrating everything, and they're saying stop resisting. I'm like, I'm not resisting. I'm just walking with you. And they're
Hmm.
walking me to the van. They put me in the van and they ask me, "Do you want your lawyer?" Which is they must ask. They should ask you at the moment they put their cuffs on you, by the way.
Yeah.
But the moment they ask you that question, your answer is very short. Yes, right now. Nothing else. Just yes, right now. Just say that.
Thank you. Hmm.
Very, very short. And they asked me that question 3 times, and I answered that answer very specifically. Yes, right now, 3 times. Obviously, they didn't have a lawyer present for me or didn't have a mechanism to provide me with a lawyer.
Hmm.
And side note, I'm sorry if I'm interjecting. This is a very
No.
complex story.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
we have won a ruling against the RCMP, RV Hamdan. We have
Hmm.
won a ruling about Section 10 charter rights violation. Is as you answer that answer saying, I want my lawyer right now,
Hmm.
they are obligated to provide you with a mechanism of even contacting you with legal aid right now.
Hmm.
Not at the station,
Yeah.
not
Right
when
now.
they get you in a room and you've been surrounded by 4 officers. And
Yeah.
we have won that in court, and it's been a dagger in their side, and use it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Congrats.
thanks. So uh they take me to the station, and I'm still being told I'm charged with explosives. The very next morning, they put me in front of a justice of the peace because it was a weekend. So my arrest was strategically planned, and it was planned to be on a Friday at 4:30. So by the
Hmm.
time they give me to the station and say, "Hey, you want to call a lawyer?" there is nobody but legal aid,
Yeah.
and that I am arrested until Monday or Tuesday, whatever there was the next court date.
Hmm.
And forgive me if it's a blur the first few days of my detention.
Oh,
Uh, we can always go to the court records and see what days it was, but I
Yeah,
don't know if my first court day was a Monday or a Tuesday until today, and I
yeah,
don't care to go back and dig it up.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's fair. Like going through that process, like what folks won't understand, most people, is just how scary it is to be around TAC members, even when there's nothing going on. Because they carry that error even after the fact, right? Like there's always a threat of violence with them around because that's why they're there, right?
Well,
Like that's the only reason they come out is because if somebody wants to get beat up, they're the ones who are going to do it. And
yes,
I
and
say wants to get beat up
that's
like
why
this,
my, for example, I have the sign-up sheet for the day they came to arrest me. There
right?
was 17 officers on that sign-up sheet to
Yeah.
arrest
And that's
me.
terrifying. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
terrifying for one person. So if there's dates and stuff, yeah, just to kind of strengthen that, because if there's any dates you can't remember, it's all good. Because I used to work with the police, and a lot of our listeners have that kind of understanding of them because they're so violent, right?
And then also you have to understand, I've spent an entire 10 years of going to court. And until today, I'm
Wow.
still going to court. So there are days, so I can tell you the month,
Yeah.
something
Fuck.
like
For
that.
sure. For
And there
sure.
are days that I know for exact, for example, my acquittal, my release, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's, of course, I'll never forget. Those are your new birthdays. So I have three
Yeah.
birthdays. We'll discuss that later on.
Of course.
And so again, I am staring at an arrest warrant that says 6 counts of having and making explosives. Yet they're
Fucking
starting to.
wild.
I asked the justice of the peace, who is determining whether they want to hold me or release me,
Mm.
about them, and he has no clue. Obviously, he's just determining whether they're going to hold me for the weekend or
Yeah.
not. But hey, in hindsight, I'm at the time I'm confused. I'm like, why nobody would explain this to me?
Yeah.
And the cop that was there couldn't explain it. We go to the first court hearing, and that was either the Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
And they claim this is a bail hearing now, initial arraignment slash whether I'm gonna get bail. And they claim that the 6 counts of having and making explosives, I'm talking the BC prosecution office,
Hmm.
is a typo. You did not mishear that. It's a, yeah. So in Canada, there's only one document that allows you to place, that allows the officer to place cuffs on you. That is the arrest warrant. He has to, this arrest warrant has to be signed, or sorry, sworn by the affiant officer. Uh,
Hmm.
the term affiant is the person who swears in an affidavit. An affidavit is a statement of facts. Sorry if I have to explain some legal terms.
No, no, I'm glad you are because they also have to explain it to a judge, don't they? Or a
Yes,
JP to get it
yes.
signed off.
And
Yeah,
the judge has to swear that it's accurate. And the clerk, the
100%.
issuing clerk had to swear it's accurate. So this is a
100%.
sworn document with
Yeah.
that many typos. They changed
Well,
the
and
charges.
and this is the history of the RCMP, right? Is they'll fabricate the reason why whatever they're doing, and then after the fact they'll just say, "Oh yeah, sorry, we fucked up," right? Like,
No,
and then move on and do it again.
so you're spot on. So in hindsight, again, I'm interjecting again. In hindsight, they did
Please.
it for the
Yeah.
following reason. If they went to a judge and said, "Hey, we have a blogger that's spewing a lot of stuff that we don't like,"
Yeah.
I don't think he was going to issue them an arrest warrant at the time they wanted. But if they
Nope.
went to him and say, "Hey, we got a guy that's probably, planning a few explosive events here and there," and they
Yeah.
gave him, they fabricated stuff, and he would issue an arrest warrant. So,
100%.
and now I am inside the system, and they fix the quote unquote technicality of the
Hmm.
charges to something else, and now they changed the charges to, initially, 2 counts of counseling to commit murder, 2 counts of counseling to commit mischief, 2 counts of counseling to commit assault, all for the benefit of a terrorist organization. Uh, let's
Jeez.
deal with this. No, actually, I'll deal with that later. They changed
Yeah.
the
What?
charges. They changed the charges again. The counseling
Hmm.
charges are very political. It's
Hmm.
uh,
And vague. They're
vague.
especially
It's a
vague.
term of I think it's an I'm not going to use the legal terms. I'm going to use layman terms. It's
Okay.
an offense that has not been committed. So you
Yeah.
haven't done anything. You might
But
have,
you're gonna do it.
or you might have incited someone to do something.
Oh
But
my God.
so, for example, Freedom Convoy got charged with similar vague
Hmm.
political charge. Like him or hate him, they weren't an
Yeah.
emergency
Yeah.
state situation. The government overreached. It's just
Yep.
typical tactic of the RCMP. So
Yeah.
back to my case.
And of our imperial government, right? Like that's
Oh,
just how we back up the moves we've already done. Yeah.
I have a very short story in the middle of the trial that will make you happy, just because of what you just said.
Right on.
So now the judge presiding over the bail hearing in Fort St. John Court
Hmm.
decides that I am to be held for 3 weeks because he doesn't know whether he's gonna grant me bail or not, because it's such a big case and such and the way the government represented what I have said, he said in his opinion he already opined on like the severity of what I supposedly have said allegedly,
Hmm.
and now they decided to hold me in Prince George prison for 3 weeks or until the bail decision. He hasn't decided.
Hmm.
And oh, I was sure I was going to get bail. No criminal record. I'm Mr. Clean. I
Yeah.
work. I pay taxes. So what? I'm behind on a couple of documents of my paperwork. Like nothing
Hmm.
big. My lawyer
Yeah.
can iron that out in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I would like to also mention that on that day of my initial arraignment, I walked in, and at the time I was, uh, just under 35,
Hmm.
33 actually. And the lawyer that was standing there, Brian Fitzpatrick, shout out to Brian.
Yeah.
If you ever need a good lawyer, find.
Right on. He did good for you, right?
Well, I'll tell you, and you tell me. So I looked at
Yeah.
Brian, who's not much different in age than I. I think he's around the same age. And I said to him, "Listen, do you want to win a case against the government where you're in the right? Again, it's a freedom of expression thing, but
Hmm.
you have to learn and you have to work hard." We shook hands on that. Brian knew nothing about Middle East politics and whatever terms you can, like, for example, jihad and intifada, and knew nothing of that. And for
Yeah.
me to bring him up to date, I would often talk to this guy between 7 and 9 p.m. for 40 minutes. That's the time I
Hmm.
was allowed out to speak to him.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
imagine
Because
his wife.
you're still being held without
Oh,
bail,
yeah, of
right?
course. You
Yeah.
can imagine his wife hated me. So, and this went on, by the way, we're not talking just in the period of the, uh, the bail. This went on
No.
throughout the trial. So,
Yeah.
uh, but I would like to tell you how they transported me from Fort St. John to Prince George.
Hmm. Please.
This is a scene from a movie, my friend.
Oh
So,
man. It's
the
like a
judge
whole entourage, eh?
the judge, wait, the judge decided. You have an image of a convoy in your head, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Doesn't live up to what I'm about to tell you. The judge decided that I will be held for 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and Fort St. John detachment was not sufficient enough to hold. By the way, to hold what they claim a major recruiter for
Mhm.
multitude of terrorist organizations. Uh,
That's just it's so amazing to me how dumb the cops can be. Like that's just so amazing to me, right? Because those
oh,
kinds of things are easy to figure out.
it's
You
it's
know,
it's it's
like
dumb is the word. I use
yeah,
incompetent, but dumb is
that
the
yeah.
yeah.
I happen to know a lot of police from my old days and they're dumb. Yeah, I'm just going to use the word dumb.
So
Yeah.
On that day that I was denied, or that the bail wasn't decided, I was given a shower. My first shower, by the way, in days, in Canadian detention. I was given my first change of clothes, and I was they put me in more cuffs than I've ever been cuffed before. Like my
Mhm.
hands were shackled, my legs were
Yeah.
shackled, and all
And
were
then the
shackled to
chains,
my
right?
waist. And
Yeah.
everything, like I wore a belt. They put a belt on me and they chained everything to that belt. And they put me in an
Mhm.
SUV, and the SUV took the far long way around town to the airport, parked at the far end of the runway, did not go to the terminal. And an RCMP plane, we waited for it about 10 minutes,
Mhm.
taxied to the far end of the runway. I was loaded into the RCMP plane. I was the only package, I was the only
Mhm.
transported prisoner. And there
Yeah.
was a number of officers. I don't know exactly how many, but way more than you'd need to transport one person. Two officers, two sheriffs, or and
Mhm.
two that are just taking the ride because they want to go fishing, and
Mhm.
other RCMP officers that are just that are transport.
Yeah. Yeah.
We disembark in Prince George Airport, and there is a convoy. That's the convoy that you were talking about that was waiting for me at the airport there.
Yeah.
Two vehicles before us, two vehicles behind us, and they're
Wow.
transporting me to Prince George.
Yeah.
And when I went in there, the correctional, like I was an exotic animal. There was every
Yeah.
correctional officer in the jail was coming to see this high profile terrorist that they're bringing in here because in Prince
Jeez.
George, it's sadly to say, every prison is nicknamed by the inmates within it. And
Mhm.
Prince George is nicknamed the Raz. I'm
Mhm.
sure that will tell you everything you have to understand
Yeah,
about the
for
environment.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, and it was surreal. And when that big metal door slammed behind me,
Yeah.
so here I am in prison.
And our
Oh,
prisons are so awful. We treat folks so
and
awfully.
straight to
Yeah.
the hall. I did not go to general population because, in their
Shit.
opinion, I'm recruiting, so I'm going to
Yeah.
recruit from the population.
Fuck.
Yeah. That's their argument.
That's their excuse. Yeah. Of course. Right.
So I'm going straight to the hole. And
Yeah.
so I'm taking the days, and I get denied bail uh, for a multitude of reasons. We don't want to go into the details of the trial. So I was denied
Hmm.
bail, and Brian and I work very diligently on a second bail plan. And I spent 72 days straight in the hole at the first go, with no reason other than he might recruit. Uh,
And what that equates to in Canada for folks listening is torture.
it
That
is
is
torture.
torture. Yeah. 100%.
In fact, there is two class action lawsuits right now. I proved
Oh, right
going
on.
against BC Corrections and against
Yep.
federal government for
Hmm.
holding people for longer than 15 days in solitary confinement. And it's not about
Yeah.
me; it's about a class of people.
Oh, because it's torture. Like
It
it's
is.
100% torture. It's the way we get
It's
away with
the Mandela
waterboarding
rule.
without the water.
It's actually called the Mandela rule. You can't hold
Ah,
somebody for more than
yeah.
15 days, especially with mental disorders, uh,
Yeah.
in solitary confinement. And guess what? And for the listeners, in Canada, uh, in BC corrections, solitary
Mhm.
confinement is the answer to everything. You did not eat
Mhm.
today, solitary confinement. You looked at an
Yeah.
officer the wrong way, solitary confinement. You did not go to
Wow.
work when you were supposed to work today, solitary confinement.
Mhm.
You tried to commit suicide, solitary confinement. Well, guess what that's gonna do to someone that tried to commit suicide?
I was just gonna say it's a good thing to leave people alone when they're suicidal, right? Like and put them in a cell that has nothing. Yeah.
Uh,
Our system is just so fucking barbaric. Yeah.
so, and that's why the class action lawsuit. Back to my
Excellent.
case. Back to
Excellent.
insanity.
I'm glad to hear that there's a lawsuit though.
Well, and
Yeah.
and it's got, yeah, but I'm gonna get into details of the legality and who pays and
Mhm.
who doesn't pay and who's, what is the actual problem of such thing. Actually, let's address it
Mhm.
now.
Okay.
In Canada, there's something called vicarious liability.
Mm.
And what it means is the Minister of Public Safety, in the case of the cops and
Mm.
jail guards and CBSA, the ministry that oversees these departments is liable for the wrongdoing of the agents and the officers of these departments.
Mm.
So when someone like me that finds clear wrongdoing, or in the case of the solitary confinement, when there is
Mhm.
clear wrongdoing against a class of people, uh, what ends up happening is you end up suing the liable party, which is the ministry. And thus, we're suing the citizens, we're suing
Mhm.
the taxpayer. And the officers that committed the crime uh, are they have gotten away with it. They didn't even get
Mhm.
punished. In some cases, they might get this, not fired,
Yeah.
promoted to a different department so they can get rid of them out of the
100%.
department they're in.
Yeah. Years ago, I stood up against some Calgary police officers here, and that's exactly what they did to them. After the complaint went through professional standards, they just moved a bunch of them around so that nobody knew where they were anymore. Yeah.
Probably one of them was in my case or two.
Quite possibly, because a couple of them did go to the RCMP apparently, so
So it
it's
was
very
so
possible.
who came after me, to be specific, is INSET, an integrated national security enforcement team, which is made up of
So
members of the RCMP, members of
yeah.
VPD, Toronto PD, CSIS,
Mm.
CBSA, Canadian government, like other Canadian law enforcement branches, like
So that's Canadians' answer to the NSA, right? Like National
yes,
Security Advice. Yeah, okay. Agency. Yeah.
something like that. I'm
Yeah.
they can you can interview one of
Oh,
them.
I have no interest in talking to cops, man.
So
Cops can do whatever they got to do, but not
yeah,
around me.
so
Yeah.
uh now we go through trial. And
Mm.
I'm gonna sum my trial in the following scene. This literally gives you the gist of it. I'm anti-nationalist. I think flags separate us. I think if you
Agreed.
wrap yourself with the American flag, the Canadian flag, the Palestinian flag, you identify yourself as a part of a small group of humanity, where
Mhm.
I think we belong to all of humanity. That's why you can
100%.
represent my cause and I can represent the Hawaiian Islands on
That's
this,
right.
because
Yeah.
we're all part of humanity.
That's how I
And
feel for sure.
so and during the Arab Spring, back to blogging,
Mhm.
uh, Canada was watching my blogs religiously,
Mhm.
and I used to write a lot of satirical renditions of the Arab national anthems. That's one way to hit back at national regimes, is to
Yeah.
mock up their national.
I like it. I like where your head's at.
And it actually catches. If it catches, it catches good with young people,
Hmm.
and they sing it,
Hmm.
and it's very
Yeah.
destructive to their image.
Hmm.
However, the Public Prosecution Office of BC was taking my satirical writing and was like reading him in a very macabre way, like as trying to tell the
As if
judge,
it's fact. Yeah.
yeah, and trying to tell the judge like this guy is recruiting for by hitting on nationalism, he's
Hmm.
recruiting for ISIS, he's recruiting for Al Qaeda, you know,
Yeah.
because God forbid you speak against these oppressive regimes,
Yeah.
you know.
I know. And because once you do start speaking, exactly what can happen to you.
So I
Which
was
is
naive. I thought that was only in the Middle East and Asia and Iran
yeah.
and North Korea. I thought Canada had a Charter of Rights and that the cops. I honestly, prior to my ordeal, if I
Hmm.
saw an RCMP officer with a flat tire on the side of the road, I would have stopped to help him.
Yeah.
After my ordeal, If I see an RCMP officer on fire on the side of the road, I would buy a bag of chips and enjoy the show.
Yeah. I
I
would
mean,
get marshmallows.
yeah, I mean, like, because, but, and honestly,
Yep.
that's from experience. That's what I saw from
Yep.
them.
Yep.
I saw complete corruption. And
Yeah.
the good ones have blinders on, if there are any,
It's
and
just so they can exist, right?
so
Yeah.
they can collect their pension. So
That's
they
right.
can just go through their life and collect their pension. That doesn't make
Yeah.
them good guys.
No, no,
It
they're not the
doesn't.
good guys.
So
Yeah,
I
they are
honestly,
not.
I
Yeah.
challenge anybody to present to me a good RCMP officer that will live 100% by the book and will report his superiors if they violate. I challenge your listeners to present me one of those.
I agree. And can I tell you a quick story about the
Mhm. Go
RCMP?
ahead.
Okay, so at the beginning of summer, so I haven't worked with or supported the police in a few years now, but I used as a social worker, I used to work alongside them. Um, but of course, I discovered the truth about them and stopped working with them because it's just asinine to think that all they do is use people, right? So at the beginning of the summer, we had the G7 coming. And so I had an RCMP, and this guy, he tried to be really slick too, but he reached out to me and started asking me questions about people I was protesting, right? And so I said nothing. I'm like, I'm not telling you anything. And so then he asked me if I would meet with him. And I said, no, like I don't talk to cops. Like I don't know how to explain this to you. So then he tried to use our podcast as an in because he says, "Oh, I listen to your podcast all the time." And he was trying to be so sweet. You know how they are, right? When they want you to do something. And I wasn't buying it. And then he went so far as to tell me that his partner was an indigenous woman so that I would trust him because he's a white guy, right? So I was like, dude, you can still be racist and hang out with other folks. Like, I don't trust you at all.
You know what would my response be to someone like that? If you're really, really, anti this oppression, why don't you
Mm-hmm.
just hand your badge right here, right now, and say, "Hey, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
police a protest."
one hundred
Otherwise, you're
percent.
part of the problem.
100%. And there's no other way around it. And so the whole reason I bring it up is just because of how nice they'll be and they'll pretend to be your friend. And this is why I'm going to tie it back into what you said. As soon as a police person starts talking to you, say, I want a lawyer now. Just say
Yes.
that. You don't have to
So
say anything else.
I have something to my lawyer, Justice
Please.
Edelman, who is currently a
Mm-hmm.
judge, tells me I am the only person in his whole entire professional career that he knows that talking to the cops helped him. And I'll
Yeah.
explain that later on. So
Oh,
yes, your
please. Yeah.
advice is 100% correct. Do not talk to the cops.
Mhm.
And this is coming from lawyers and judges. Do
Yeah.
not talk to the cops. And
Yeah.
I
Because they
just,
can be as nice as pie. They can lie. They can do all kinds of stuff to get you to talk,
oh
which
yes,
obviously happened for you, right?
happened to me in that
Yeah.
interview. And
Yeah.
no, no, wait. It gets funnier. So
You take it away.
back to the national anthem, so we don't, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I'm on the stand trying to explain to the judge what what are my musings? This is what my writings are, and the
Hmm.
crown is playing this macabre note, trying to represent my writings as this like death cult.
Yeah.
And
Oh
they're
my
you doing
God.
that by mistranslating Arabic into English intentionally. For
Yeah.
example, I used a term used alokab, which is
Hmm.
a banner. It's exactly the name of the banner that, for example, the groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda will fly. That's the name
Yeah.
of their banner, and
Yeah.
it translates literally into the chick of an eagle, like a young eagle. That's
Oh,
that's what
okay.
they call their banner.
Yeah.
The Canadian government translates that as al-iqab, which looks exactly the same, sounds a little
Hmm.
different, and it means the punishment flag. So do you
Oh.
see the nefarious
Oh, yeah.
translation in there? And they
I'm
intentionally,
surprised Canada didn't translate it to mean death to Canada. Like they might as
some,
well just like make it up, right?
right. So these are like examples of the thing, but let's go back to
Yeah,
them.
for sure.
to the one that I was able to win the judge on my side and actually
Hmm.
break their whole case. So I said to the judge, I'm not gonna waste your time in trying to explain how many mistranslations so far she represented in front of you, but I
Hmm.
would like to take you to the following page, page such and such. And what you see there is in English my rendition of the Canadian national anthem. And
Hmm.
before anybody clues in, I started singing the following. Oh, Canada, the stolen native land, true patriot love, and all that US demand. And I'm not a singer, but
So far, so good.
as I finished those lines, the judge goes, "We're having lunch right now."
Sometimes
So
you got to sing them in.
yes, so and it was very clear that this is a garbage political case in which they're trying to take such writings and try to say, "Oh, look, this guy is too dangerous."
Yeah,
2 years of trial. On September 22nd of 2017, 2 years of pre-trial and trial
yeah,
for technicality, so nobody, yeah.
yeah.
Uh, and I was found not guilty by Justice Butler of the BC Supreme Court on
Hmm.
all frivolous charges. All. He, in fact, the only thing that Justice Butler found is that the cops violated my Section 10 charter right by not providing me a
Hmm.
judge in time, a lawyer in time,
Hmm.
and they did illegal search and seizure of multiple of my items and multiple of my emails because they found my password written somewhere and they just, oh, we don't know that it's illegal. And
Yeah,
again, they found no evidence, but they did the illegal search and he
yeah.
found that they did these things and he found me not guilty.
Right on.
Being
Because the
Canada,
truth will prevail there.
yes.
Yeah.
And I had one lawyer, Brian Fitzpatrick, and the
Hmm.
government had a multitude of lawyers stretching from Vancouver all the way to Ottawa. And they
Yeah.
had a team of guys going on this on like the podium from
Hmm.
Leslie Ann Kilgore to Sharon Steele to Anita Chang to what's his name? Former chief prosecutor of BC, Robert Pryor.
Hmm.
I can't remember. There's another individual. I can't remember his name. So like these are the guys that got on the podium. You can imagine
Hmm.
the guys working behind this. Uh,
Yeah.
found
Well,
not guilty.
they probably had a whole like country's worth of people working on it, right? Like all
Man,
across the
I will
country.
show you one day. The
Yeah.
files and files I have. You know how much it takes
Wow.
for a lawyer to file something this thick, right? Like about
Yeah.
thick. I have
Yeah.
banker boxes worth of documents. But
I bet you do good. Just in case, right? Because you never know what they're going to try next.
but that's them. That's them paying your tax dollars paying for that, and they fail
Yep.
miserably every time against a no. Like I said, I started with saying I'm a nobody. They fail miserably against a nobody every time.
Mm.
Simply because the truth doesn't need 12 lawyers. It
Yeah.
doesn't need stacks and stacks of fraudulent documents to try to convince a judge of it. It just
Hmm.
needs someone to stand their ground. And I hope that's all you take from this story. Uh,
Well, and I think that's really the point, right? Is that the government and our law enforcement across Canada, they're always banking on the fact that you're not going to stand up for yourself against them because they're so scary, right? And they present such a scary front right away. Which is why I remind people, like whenever the police are talking to you, no matter how nice, just don't say nothing.
so,
Like,
so
don't,
many of
yeah.
just a second. Many of your listeners think the story finished.
I
I
know,
was
I
found
know.
not
It's
guilty.
not done yet. It's far from done. It's far from done. I know.
Yeah. So make sure it doesn't come out as we like, yeah, that's the end of the story.
Oh yeah, no, no. We're continuing on. Yeah.
Yeah. So uh, n-
But
now instead of
congratulations on standing up for yourself and for the truth coming through.
and not only me,
Congratulations.
thank a lot of people. Like I
Hmm.
was like I said, I'm the player. That's I'm
Yeah.
like the avatar in the game. Someone else is
Yeah.
in charge, you know.
That's fair.
And
Yeah. That's fair.
thank all the lawyers, all the clerks, all the
Hmm.
legal aids that worked pro bono. I'm sure Brian was well compensated during my defense
Hmm.
because, again, another piece of information that's valuable for everybody that's going to face terrorism related charges. Terrorism related charge in Canada carries a high jeopardy, means it carries a high penalty. The
Hmm.
penalty to you carries either a long term. And in Canada, legally, if you are facing a crime with high jeopardy, high penalty, even a murder charge, for example, the government is obligated to pay your full legal fees as to per your lawyer's hourly wage, as he
Hmm.
suggested. He just has to make the application through the right channels to the government. So you can get a lot better representation than the very basic legal aid. You just need to be your own advocate and remind your lawyer, yeah, with one application, he can get a whole lot of more money. Most
Hmm.
lawyers will make that application because they'd rather get paid their wage than legal aid wage.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, so Brian was fairly compensated. I was found not guilty. I hugged Brian. We had already arranged for Erica Olmsted, another good lawyer, if anybody's looking for a criminal or immigration lawyer in Vancouver. Uh,
Okay.
so Erica Olmsted was my immigration lawyer there. That was the first in-person introduction to this hardworking young lawyer.
Mm.
And
Right
again,
on.
she said to me, "This is, they're handing me over to immigration uh, authorities, and they're gonna try to remove me out of Canada, even though I have no criminal record. I'm
Hmm.
Mr. Clean. Remember, I was gonna give bail,
Yep.
and now I've been found not guilty, exonerated, and the judge found that the cops did the wrong thing, not me.
Hmm.
Yet Canada, the Canadian government, is still trying to deport me in any way they can.
Yeah.
So they assigned her, legal aid assigned 1 hour to Erica Olmsted to review my file.
Mm.
My file arrived at her office on two dollies, consisted of 8 to 9 banker boxes, and
Wow.
they gave
Yeah.
her 1 hour. When that happened, Mr. Peter Edelman, Justice Peter Edelman, right now,
Hmm.
who was the owner of the firm, uh, saw the two dollies going in, and he's whose file is that large? So he
Yeah.
walks up, grabs the top box, grabs the synopsis, and starts reading through it. And he looked at Eric and he said, "When this guy calls you, tell him I'm going to represent him pro bono."
Oh.
And that was how That's probably the only reason one of the reasons I'm still alive. Uh,
Yeah. Wow. Right on.
Good man on the bench. We will get
Hmm.
there. We will get to talk about this later on.
Right on.
And what ensues is 2 years of the Canadian government trying to circumvent any legal procedure, trying to shove me on a plane illegally to Jordan, where they know I would either be tortured or maybe, like, I don't know how long am I supposed to last in torture. This is what I
Yeah.
envisioned would happen to me had I been shipped to Jordan.
Yeah.
Canada would have handed me to the Jordanian authorities as a suspect, as somebody they believe is a recruiter for terrorist organizations.
Hmm.
The Jordanian authorities would take me into one of their interrogation rooms, and most likely the conversation would go along one of these lines or something like this. It'll be the only reason you got found not guilty in Canada because they don't know how to interrogate. We know better. And by the
Yeah.
time he's done, I would have signed on documents saying I have killed the Pope, and
Yep.
or I
Yep.
would have died under torture. Right? It's just
Yep. And folks in Canada might not believe. that the Canadian government would willfully do that. But see, what the Canadian folks don't really understand is that our Canadian government is just as enmeshed in the world as the American government. We have RCMP officers all across this planet station,
Do
just like
you
there are. And so, like, folks just have to understand our government is the same as the US government. It's just a little bit more polite about it. That's it. And by the
there's
sounds of it, not that polite either.
no, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like the image on sorry, the image on the outside is a lot different than what actually happens. So
Yeah.
the name of my book is The Imprisoned Blogger.
Mm-hmm.
I just told you a crazy story, correct?
Yeah.
You would think I would be telling that my book would be just about this. And that
Mm-hmm.
will be what drove me to write the book.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, the latter part of my detention, like the immigration part of my detention. So
Yeah.
when I spent 2 years in the criminal system in Prince George Regional Correctional Center in North Fraser pretrial center and in Fraser Regional Correctional Center. And when I was
Mm-hmm.
found not guilty, they moved me to most of this time, by the way, previous was in solitary confinement. Like during my
Yeah.
trial, I spent 11 months, one straight go in solitary
Yeah.
confinement.
Jesus.
Uh, that's the
Yeah.
subject of a whole other trial. So
No doubt.
yes. So when they moved me to immigration detention, to try to deport me. Now they couldn't hold me in solitary because I've been just exonerated of all their garbage recruiting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they put me on the immigration unit. And being on the immigration unit, I found myself amongst, just the immigration crowd is from every nationality. And being an English speaker, there was a couple of Americans on the unit, and there's only a few that are on the immigration unit that speak English. So I would walk around with a friend of mine named Arthur, and Arthur would be write a book, write a book. And you're just like
Mm-hmm.
nagging in my ear,
Yeah.
write a book. Your story is
Yeah.
crazy. Write a book, write a book.
Yeah.
And I wasn't writing a book. And then one day they brought in a man who they had CBS, they in this case Canada Border Service Agency, have arrested in the airport, and they brought him into NFBC for 2 weeks, and then they're moving him to Fraser Regional on week 3. This man was a deaf man. He had a cochlear implant device in his head and a device in his ear, obviously. And the assholes confiscated the battery and charger for the external device from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him on week 3, so he's been walking around for more than 2 weeks, deaf, in a
Yeah.
prison, in an environment where he could have gotten killed simply by somebody telling him get out of the way, and he doesn't hear him, and that guy thinks he's dicking him around. And sorry, excuse my language, but
No, no, you're okay. I can appreciate the environment is
yeah.
pretty
So
like can be pretty hostile. So.
yes, and then next thing you
Mm-hmm.
know, he could have been. And my initial reaction, even though going through my ordeal, my initial
Mm-hmm.
reaction is still Canada. This is 2018 at the time, I think,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe 19 or late 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we're more civilized than this. I'm gonna walk to the management. CBSA might be complete assholes, but prison
Mm-hmm.
management will understand what I'm requesting for this man, and we will get his battery and charger here. There are channels to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked to the management with a request, brought him with me. I'm speaking on his behalf. This guy needs his battery and charger. He needs to hear. And the officers that are behind the desk, one was Canada Border Service Agency and one was correctional officer,
Mm-hmm.
gave me the following answer. Mr. Hamden, you are an able body. If you came in here with a cell phone and charger and battery, we will confiscate this stuff from you. And in the name of equality, we're gonna treat this disabled man. I see the look on your face, and that was
Yeah.
exactly the look on my face.
Yeah.
And So I said, hand me a pen and a paper. And I started writing this book that I'll hopefully you'll get a copy of very soon.
Right on. Well, we're going to be sharing it. It's called The Imprisoned Blogger, so people will be looking for it.
Well, I hope they read it. And it's most of these stories are written in prison. And it's not just
Mhm.
about me. As I tell you, the catalyst to the book is
Yeah.
Abdul. I'd like to tell you the following. It's not all in vain. When I wrote Abdul's story, I wrote it in prison, and then we typed it on uh, an old ancient something from like the dinosaur ages of computers,
Yeah.
uh, a computer inside the prison in the quote unquote school section.
Mhm.
Uh, and then we printed it with a printer that was so inadequate. It would print like half the page would be black and half of it would be gray and
Yeah.
but we printed it on that. And when the Red Cross comes in to check on prisoners, I handed him the story.
Mhm.
They took this story along with others, and they can't. Eventually, when was released, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch got a hold of him. They used him as the poster child of a campaign called Welcome to Canada, or at
Mhm.
least one of the one of the
Yeah.
images of the abuses that happen at the hands of CBSA.
Mhm.
And it's true they edited me out of the story because of the toxic nature of terrorism related charges, which is fine by me.
Yeah.
I'm happy that they were able to
Yeah. Well,
help
considering
Abdul.
you're not, that's nothing like you. It's just like such an absurd statement, right? Such an absurd thing.
I'm still fighting to clear myself from being a national security threat to Canada. You know, this is the
Hmm.
ridiculous part, is you're
Wow.
speaking to a national security threat and
Yeah, that's
determination.
wild. Which is really interesting because as we've talked before on the phone, like I've never felt a threat from you. So this is really interesting to
Well,
learn.
if you read my book, you will understand why crooks in governments
Yep.
will consider me a threat. So I
Yeah.
don't, I just sung to you my rendition of the Canadian national anthem. You can see
Yeah.
why a colonial government like the Crown's government, I don't,
Yep.
we shouldn't call it Canada. We should call it the crime syndicate family, the Crown,
Yep.
and its militias. Uh,
100%. That's, I mean, our law
by
enforcement
the
are just
way,
like crown lickers, right? Like,
yes, and on this note, today is the
yeah.
anniversary of the passing of the one of the most notorious warlords that you and I have uh, lived at the same time. The
Mhm.
Queen died. What's her name? Elizabeth uh,
Oh yeah.
died a year ago today. So
Yep.
uh,
And I got to tell you, I have no love for the Royals. I've had no love for them forever. And so when the Queen died, I was like, who cares? Like I'll be
well,
honest, like I get it for their family. It's probably harsh, but like really for the rest of us, and especially folks who've been colonized, who
for
gives a shit?
Palestinians, I
Yeah,
mean, for
yeah,
natives, for
yeah,
for Sudanese, for Egyptian,
yep,
for
yep.
it's a different perspective. I'll tell you a funny story. They the city have commissioned an artist. The city of
Mm,
Grand Forks have commissioned an artist right after her death to do a mural of an effigy of her when she was younger, right on the side wall of the courthouse, which
mhm,
actually creates a whole other problem. But right next to the
yeah.
pet store, which I like to stop at to buy some fish food or cat food for
Mm,
some of the pets we have. And when I stopped there and I saw them, they're working on the mural and they're about to reveal it.
mhm,
Uh, CBC was there, the local newspaper, the mayor, everybody's standing there and they're all so proud of their work. And
mhm.
I had to pull over right at the perfect moment. I
Yeah.
looked up there and I'm like, what is that? And they're like, "What's a rule of the queen?" They're all proud of it, and I'm like, "You mean that witch that just died that colonized half of Earth?" And they're like shocked. I'm like, "She's a
Yeah.
bad person." And
Yeah.
before they can even respond to me, I was, "Well, you just created my favorite pissing wall." And they walked away.
I'm gonna have to visit up there just to take a piss on the wall.
We should make it a ritual.
A yearly tour, a yearly vigil.
Yes, the yearly tour of Grand Forks. And it includes a stop at the courthouse. But how
At the
ridiculous is
pissing
that?
wall.
This is the absurd part of how much the crown, this family, this
Mhm.
warlords of that are
Oh,
warlording over Canada, this is
yep.
how much they disregard the law. The fact that her effigy is on the side of the courthouse is grounds for dismissal of any of any hearings that happen in that courthouse between the crown and
Hmm.
anybody else, because this
Yeah,
is not an unbiased courthouse. You have the effigy of the queen on the walls. You are
yeah,
so, but they don't
that's
care.
right.
They don't care.
Nope. Every time I saw the cops like saluting the crown or whatever, like I just like I can't even stand it. I'm just like, you guys are the worst. Not only are most of you dumb, like cops, but now you're also licking a crown. Like this is ridiculous. Yeah.
So,
And for them not to think they're an occupying army is pretty absurd too. Yeah.
well, there. You gotta remember that the RCMP is a militia. It is
Yeah.
not a police force. It is a
That's a good point.
militia
Yeah.
that is royal, so it's loyal to the
Yep.
royal family. It has one objective. It might
Yep.
have a side objective of policing the population, but its
Hmm.
main objective is to maintain the crown's rule on the land. That is its
Yes.
main objective. And every Canadian must be aware of that. And that's the
Hmm.
first step to, like, even if you don't want to dismantle the RCMP, if you want to correct it, you have to
Hmm.
be aware of that.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah, you
sad
do.
that
You have to be aware of the truth. Yeah.
I'm a refugee Palestinian, not a citizen that, only came here very
Hmm.
recent is the one that's having to say that and even
Hmm.
having to pay for it as we speak.
Yeah.
Uh, I give many book talks,
Hmm.
like what I just did here. The
Hmm.
every podcast here can be summed in a book talk. And,
Yeah. Well, we'll do another podcast after I read your book, if you don't mind.
that's fine.
Because
And then
yeah,
that would be awesome because you'd be the first one that went into details about some of the stories.
I'd love to. I'd love to. Because I mean, I've read some of your blogs and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm hooked. So yeah.
You're wondering, oh, yeah, what's gonna be in the book? Maybe I'll
Yeah,
give you
totally.
a short bit of a reading just to intrigue uh,
Ooh.
the listeners, and maybe they would want to know what happened and what's the end of that story.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And
So, uh, but now you lost me. Where were we?
you were still going through it was 2019, I think. Early
Yes.
2019, late 2018. Yeah.
So late 2018, 2019, they bring Abdu to the prison, and we write this story. And I'm writing more stories inside prison because I'm watching
Mm.
uh, stuff that should be documented, is what I thought.
Mm.
And I hand these stories to an advocate named Omar Chu. He was working for a legal clinic, a refugee legal clinic in
Mm.
Vancouver. We handed him the stories, and he was peddling them to Canadian media. Any newspaper, any organization that
Mm.
is interested, and the only response he got was from the Toronto Star. I think there is a gentleman with the last name Kang.
Okay.
He writes a lot about and immigration issues.
Mhm.
He's the only one that contacted him back And this is relayed to me by Omar. Actually, we had interviewed Omar shortly about this, and we have a short video out there about it.
Mm-hmm.
You can review. And he said the Toronto Star were okay. We've reported about such violations before, but nobody ever listens to us, and nobody ever cares. But who's this guy writing these stories from inside prison? We want to
Yeah.
talk to him.
Yeah.
And at the time, I wasn't interested in being in media because still in prison, and
Mm-hmm.
there's all the negative publicity about me. My lawyers were very cautious about giving statements online or live to camera, and we eventually agree. So Toronto Star, that went nowhere. Eventually, the CBC was contacted. Uh, I should, I could mention the journalist's name, but she's now retired. She worked in Vancouver, and she was contacted, and she wanted to come and interview me inside the prison. The
Mm-hmm.
prison authorities will not allow CBC to come in because they knew what I was gonna say from my work
100%.
inside,
Yeah. Yeah.
so they wouldn't allow them to come in. And Canada's trying to put me on a plane illegally. And this is everybody's saying, well, how is it illegal, right? Here's the question. Here's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Canada is a signatory to the Geneva Convention. Any country that signed the Geneva Convention made it an obligation on itself not to send somebody somewhere where they're gonna be tortured or killed. In my case, well, someone might tell me, well, how do you know you were going to be tortured or killed? In my case, the RCMP's own expert on the stand in the BC Supreme Court said,
Mm-hmm.
if this guy was to be sent to Jordan, I'm going to quote him. He said, he will be behind the sun. That's his own
Yeah.
assessment.
Yeah.
So, knowingly that I will be behind the sun,
Mm-hmm.
knowingly, not just maybe,
Yep.
knowingly, Canada was trying to put me on a plane without performing a step which is part of Canadian law. It's called pre removal risk assessment. All of you
Mm-hmm.
immigrants out there that are facing deportation, ask for your pre removal risk assessment. I don't care where you're getting removed to, Honduras, Zimbabwe, Fiji. Ask for it and fight for it. It is a legal process in which the government has to enter into an exercise of assessing the probabilities of risk that you pose to Canada
Mm-hmm.
versus the probabilities of risk your life is at in the location you're being sent to. I know this is very technical, so I'm going to try to give
Mm-hmm.
it in layman's terms.
Yeah.
Ah,
No, it's helpful.
so, like, let's say a gentleman named Manuel has got a few reckless driving infractions,
Mm-hmm.
speeding, one drunk driving, and he is not a citizen. He is a citizen of a South American country, and he's a dissident. He's a well, let's not. An opposition figure, an outspoken opposition
Yeah.
figure of an oppressive
Just
government.
1 second. 1 second. Sorry about this. Okay. Let's go back here. Where'd it go? There we go. Sorry about that. Go ahead. I had some kind of phone call going on, so I had to get rid of it. Sorry about that.
So let's say this person who is an opposition figure, who is outspoken and who is wanted by his government for his political activism, and he is an environmentalist. He is not
Mm-hmm.
somebody, let's make clear that he is
Yeah.
not a violent person.
Yeah.
And he is just, got a few driving infractions, likes to
Mm-hmm.
speed, got drunk one day, and now he's in the system slated for deportation because of that many infractions. If he triggers the pre-removal risk assessment, now Canada has to weigh the odds. What are the odds of him being a risk to the public in Canada with his bad driving behavior,
Hmm.
and versus what are the odds of him being killed or tortured in his country where the government officially is looking for him. And in this case, for example, his driving bad behavior could be remedied by, uh, driving is a privilege, so take away his license. But that will remedy most of the risk that he puts to the public in Canada. And yet the risk to his life in his country will be so high. So then the result of this process should be that he stays in Canada.
Hmm.
Uh, in my case, I pose zero risk to the public in Canada. Like there was zero risk, zero. The worst thing they can say about me is I talk too loud or I talk too much.
Apparently, though, some of the brightest minds in Canada think differently. Sorry,
So
I said that with a straight face,
I
that some
know.
of the brightest
I
minds.
understand your sarcasm. Yes. Oh, we will talk about how dumb these people are. We haven't even gone there. So,
Oh my goodness.
oh yeah, the incompetence is hard to hide. That's another takeaway
Yeah,
from this story.
yeah,
Incompetence is hard to hide,
yeah.
very hard. And so they did not want to perform this pre-removal risk assessment, and they wanted to shove me on a plane. And specifically on February 6th, 2019. So what happened? So let's go back to the prison. I'm writing these stories. I'm being a jailhouse lawyer on the immigration unit, and authorities don't like that. I'm helping everybody that's coming in because here's how Canada circumvents the immigrants' right to a lawyer in their first hearing. If you're detained at the airport, you have it's called administrative detention. It triggers an automatic review in 48 hours. You can have a lawyer present, and if you have a lawyer present and you don't have criminal charges and you're not a flight risk, you're not a threat, you're most likely to be released. So, how does Canada make sure, CBSA, Canada Border Service Agency, make sure that these people show up to court without a lawyer? They take him, arrest him, and throw him in prison in a right now detention center, but at the time when I was, it was maximum security prisons. And right away, when you're in that prison, if you pick up the phone to make a phone call to your lawyer, you receive prompts in English to register your name, your prisoner ID, record your voice for voice recognition prior to making any phone call. So it's very hard for English speaker to see this difficulty, but I can demonstrate it very well to you here. To those that don't speak Arabic. If you pick up a phone, you're in a prison in some country and you pick up the phone, and before you can do anything, you hear the following: الرجاء أن تدخل اسمك ورقم البطاقة. What would you do?
Uh, Hit any button I could. I
Yes.
have no
And
idea.
and then
Yeah,
it wouldn't work, right? And the
yeah,
system wouldn't work. So you wouldn't be able to make a phone call. So you can't make a phone call to legal aid. So you're
yeah.
gonna show up in 48 hours without a lawyer.
And of course, CBSA is not helping them get lawyers.
Oh no, CBSA is
Yeah,
throwing
they're
them in the prison knowing this is what's
yeah,
gonna happen.
yeah.
So here's where someone like me and my fellow American and Persian prisoners that were there that were trying to help anybody that comes in. You
Mm,
walked in, you're from El Salvador, you spoke nothing but Spanish. Okay, sit here. I get on the phone and I call legal aid by whatever month, by 6 months. Legal aid knew me by name. The staff.
mm,
As soon as I start speaking, they knew who I was. I'll ask for a translator. I would have contacted a lawyer already out of
mm.
a set number of lawyers that I knew would take legal aid cases.
Yeah.
I was doing a triage room and in which cases I
Wow.
think there will be successful release and presentation, and
Hmm.
I would just call the lawyers and line it up. And You would go on Monday for in your 48 detention review. CBSA is looking for an easy detention. They're not prepared with any legal notes or anything.
Mm.
Oh, there's a lawyer showing up.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's good.
but they hated that.
Yeah.
So what did they do? They removed me from the immigration unit. So
Of
I
course.
was somebody that's on immigration administrative detention, and they took me and put me on the kitchen unit, which is a criminal unit for convicted criminal. Mind you, it's for lesser convicted criminals like prolific driving offenses. Uh, there was some petty thieves and stuff like that, but nothing. Nobody was too dangerous on that unit, to be honest.
Mhm.
Uh, because they have access to knives. It's the kitchen
Yeah.
unit. You're not gonna put dangerous people on it. Yeah. So you got to remember, we're talking about inside a prison here, after all.
Yeah. Wow.
Again, another proof that they didn't think I'm dangerous. They put me on the kitchen unit with access to knives, and if
Yeah.
uh,
Well, it's because they knew that you weren't that person. They just wanted you to gone anyway, right? Like, which just it speaks to the racism behind this country's like governance, right? Like the absolute racism that exists every day in this country.
good interjection. One day, one there was some good officers.
Hmm.
So one day, Miss B, I won't mention her last name, Hall,
For
because
sure.
she's an officer. She was one of the good officers. In fact,
Yeah.
she's the only officer that, upon my release, I shook her hand while
Mm-hmm.
she was standing between her supervisors and thanked
Mm-hmm.
her for being a good human being in a shitty environment. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
shake the hands of any of them. And I
Right
walked
on.
away. And one of these petty criminals and on that unit was bragging about all his terrible act. Well, his drug dealers ran out. Anyways, so he's bragging about his thug lifestyle, and
Yeah.
she's sitting and listening to all of that, and she's looking, and she's like, and they give you whatever months they give him, and we got
Yeah.
Hamdan here sitting. We don't even know what crime he committed. And,
Yeah.
she's talking about how absurd the system is.
Yeah.
And
I mean, if anyone knows, it's got to be like an articulate, intelligent guard, right? As well as the prisoners. Like, there's
yes,
just no, you can't lie to some people, right? Yeah.
yes. So one day I'm on that kitchen unit, specifically January 31st of 2019, and we are having our lunch lockup. It's when they
Hmm.
serve us lunch and we're locked up for 40 minutes, they do a count, and then
Yeah.
we go back to the kitchen because we got to make dinner for the rest of the prison, right?
Mm.
And but during this lockup, three correctional officers came to my uh, cell and they said to
Hmm.
me, and they were sweating, and I think they're sweating because they know what they're doing is illegal. And they said,
Yeah.
"You're to be removed to the hole. Orders came from the warden. Uh, we don't know why, but you're to be removed to the hole." What the hell did I do? We don't know. We are gonna
I
be
do.
nice to you and allow you
I
to
know what you
pack your
did.
stuff. This is how
Yeah.
nice they are. I pack my
Yeah.
legal documents so I don't lose any of them.
Yeah. How kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the whole is tough. I don't care
Mm.
who you are. You might last a few days in the hole on your own, and it eventually will get to you.
Yeah.
Uh, and the
That's
hole
why
is,
it's torture. That's the whole point. Yeah.
yes. But no, this was in preparation for my legal deportation.
Yeah.
And so they take me to the hole, and right away I request my legal call. If you go to the hall, you can make a lawyer call to, because there's a reason. There has to be a reason to take you from general population
Hmm.
to the hall, and you can represent yourself in a kangaroo court, mind
Hmm.
you, but it's still a court where you can represent yourself and get out of the hole.
Hmm.
And I thought I could have better representation by, you know, legal representation because there's
Hmm.
absolutely no reason for me to go to the hall here.
Yeah.
And we were expecting this terrible move. So I wanted my legal call, and the correctional officers. What I'm about to relate to you is a story of a good cop, bad cop inside prison. The
Okay.
correctional officers refused to give me uh, my legal call. So now you have a scene from a movie. Me inside the cell and banging on the wall every 3, 5 seconds. I want my legal call.
Mhm.
And they're outside ignoring me. But I'm making sure they're not going to have a shift today. The hall is
Yeah.
a rough place because even if the person next to me wants to be quiet, I am dealing with my ordeal and I need my
Yeah.
legal call. And I don't
Yeah.
give a damn what the two persons in the hall on the cells
Mhm.
next to me, and they might want to sleep, but you see the complexity of the situation. And
Yeah.
2 rooms down, somebody might be having a mental breakdown, and I just want my legal call. And I'm
Hmm.
banging on the wall. And this goes on from 11 something from our lunch break
Hmm.
to about 2 something. Every 5 seconds, I'm banging her. And a new shift of officers comes in. And a new correctional supervisor, Officer R, hears the craziness and he looks at the roster and he sees that it's me that's making that. He knows me personally. So he looks at the 3 supervisors that brought me there and he says, "Why is Hamden screaming his head off?" He's like, "Well, you hear him. He wants his legal call." And he is the one who relayed this part of the story to me. "Well,
Hmm.
you hear him. He wants his legal call." He's like, "Well, did he get his legal call?" "No." "Isn't that his right?" "Yes." "Aren't we officers of the law?" "Yes." "Well, then open the
Sort of.
fucking door."
Oh my goodness. So corrupt, hey? Like a whole shift of people just let you sit in there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they
So,
don't have courage to do the right thing.
so he allowed me to make my legal call,
Yeah.
and we go to court on the 6th or on the 5th. Sorry again about the
Hmm.
dates.
No,
We
it's
go to
okay. Yeah.
court just hours before this supposed deportation.
Hmm.
And I attended this court from the hall. So you can imagine when they drag someone out of the hall, disheveled hair, disheveled beard, in your dirty, and in the hall they intentionally give you dirty, uh, beat up clothes to that's their way to make you feel punished.
Demoralize you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
demoralize you. So they're dragging me out of there. And they tried to give me a clean shirt, and I laughed at them. I said, "No, I'm going in with this."
Yeah.
And yeah, so I walked in and I heard the hearing. And then the judge, a female judge, who had at the onset of the hearing, she said she will give her ruling in the morning.
Yeah.
And she didn't because they made one move, made her give her ruling on the snap. She asked them, she asked the government, the crown representatives, and
Mhm.
in the case of the immigration, they're called the minister representative. They asked the minister representative when are they planning to remove me, and instead of giving a verbal answer, they wrote it on a post-it note, walked to the judge, and showed her a post-it note to her face. They wouldn't even tell my lawyer.
Mhm.
Uh, and she issued a decision 15 minutes later stopping that deportation because it's unconstitutional.
Right on.
And so now I'm still in prison. It's not
Yeah.
over
That's not good.
yet.
Yeah, that's not good. But like little victories for you, I'm sure.
Oh, but that moment I knew it was all over. Like the
Yeah.
only reason now they hold me in prison, the only so I was in an administrative detention, remember? So
Yep.
every 30 days I would go in front of a kangaroo court called the immigration tribunals.
Yeah.
And on these 30 days, some unqualified Canadian schmuck would rule that, sorry, man, these guys are not qualified.
No,
I'm not saying
it's
all Canadians are
unqualified.
schmucks. I'm
You
saying
can say
these guys are schmucks.
unqualified. Yeah, you can say unqualified racist Canadian schmuck because that's
Yeah.
obviously what you've been dealing with, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
some unqualified schmuck would rule that I am to be held for another 30 days. And this went
Hmm.
on for 2 years. Uh, but I knew it was
So
all
they
over
held you for 2 years?
after being found not guilty. So total of four
Jeez.
years.
And that's the difficulty when they go the immigration route, is because then they don't even have to have criminal stuff, right? They
Yes.
just kind of do what they want over that time. Yeah.
I can sum it in the following. In the immigration arena, when you're charged, or in the criminal arena, when you're charged criminally, the standard of proof or the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's very hard for people to envision what that is. So I'm going to use percentages, but
Hmm.
do not take these percentages literally. It's a
Fair enough.
representation. So beyond a reasonable doubt is like 98%. Like there's
Hmm.
98% probability that uh, you ran into this person intentionally,
Hmm.
uh, not as an accident.
Yeah.
So that's criminal. That's beyond a reasonable doubt. If you go to the civil arena or anything within that range where it's a dispute between two parties,
Hmm.
for example, the solitary confinement thing. Uh, it's this right now. It's a class action, but it's a civil lawsuit. So
Yeah.
uh, the the burden of proof is on a balance of probabilities or preponderance of evidence, like 51%. More likely
Yeah.
than not has happened.
Hmm.
Uh, Now, in the immigration arena, and it's also the same standard of proof that is used to issue an arrest warrant to investigate a legal proceeding.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
is called reasonable grounds to believe, which is like 20%. So, like,
Wow.
yeah, reasonable grounds
Yeah.
to believe is like uh, there is a house and we see every 5 minutes somebody walking in and out. And on top of that, we see that they got $5 and $10 bills in their hands as they're walking in and out. So we're
Yeah.
assuming there's some kind of transactional happening is going. We have reasonable grounds to believe this is a
Hmm.
something where a sale of some sort is happening.
Hmm.
And that's the same grounds they use in the immigration arena to deport somebody. In my
Wow.
case, we have reasonable grounds to believe that Othman Hamdan is a national security threat. And what is their reasonable grounds? Is a fraudulent report written by racist officers, signed by
Racist commissioners. Yeah.
yeah, and that's their reasonable grounds to believe. Very strong evidence in the eyes of a kangaroo court tribunal, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like
Yeah.
the whole system is rigged in a way that you can't fight it.
Well,
Except,
and it also goes to what you were talking about with the incompetence level, because the incredible incompetence displayed is a direct result of racism. Like the inability to actually see outside of that racist box, right? So there's like so much going on here. Yeah.
so the immigration procedure has ended with with not wasn't ended, was set aside, and the
Yeah.
judge, the federal court, ordered the government to perform the pre-removal risk assessment.
Yeah.
I was confident that I will win it based on the evidence I have. My
Hmm.
lawyers, however, warned me heavily that only about 2% of applicants actually win their pre-removal risk assessment. It's like winning the lottery.
Okay.
I'm one of those.
Yeah.
I cannot buy a lottery ticket because I've won the one lottery ticket I'll win in my life.
No, no doubt. That's quite impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So, based on the evidence I told you, that they said I was a risk to Canada, diminished risk of nothing.
Hmm.
And the risk to my life is real. The Jordanian government would definitely torture me, and if not, at least keep me held for a while in inhumane. Even if I was just to be held in regular Jordanian prisons,
Yeah.
that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, no doubt. I
You
mean,
know?
obviously, we're going to have to come back again because I'm going to read your book and we're going to have to come back
Yes.
around. So,
So,
yeah,
like, as you read the book, you got to understand that it's terrible stories, but there are levels
yeah,
of hell. Like, if you are to
yeah.
take my book and compare it to a day in the life of Denis Ivanovich or Ivan Denisovich, I
Mm,
might have gotten the name right across, but it's
yeah,
written about a day in the gulags. And
yeah,
the Russian, yeah, obviously, I wasn't in the Russian gulags, you know.
yeah.
It's,
Well, and that's the thing, Adam, is that like folks here have this like Pollyanna rainbow vision of what our prisons are like because they just refuse to imagine that we're like the States, but we're exactly like the States.
a,
Our prisons are to punish people and torture them.
a
That's it.
prison is a prison, and even in one of in my new books, here's a teaser in the book that hasn't come
Ooh,
out. And one of the lines
nice.
I say some, I'm paraphrasing. A prison is a prison. A prison is a prison, even in the land of milk and honey. And like
Mm,
it's still a rough
well said.
environment.
Well
You
said.
know, it's still a rough environment. It's still people
Yeah.
get stabbed. I've watched deaths.
Mm,
I've watched some fights that I wouldn't want to describe on to people because there
for
might be a
sure.
child listening.
Yeah.
It's extreme. So back
Yeah.
to the
And
story.
but thank you for interjecting that because I think like there are some folks in Canada who think we have this like perfect thing figured out and we just don't, right? We
That's
have
why
nothing.
you reading the book will actually
Yeah.
I wrote the book in a way the first half is written in detention, so I wrote it in a
Hmm.
way to bring the reader into detention, and we'll read one of those eventually here through the podcast. I'm
Okay.
sure you can
Right
edit
on.
this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to
Yeah.
where we at is, yeah. So now they're performing the pre-removal risk assessment.
Hmm.
And the first two steps is what's the risk to Canada? What my risk to in Jordan? And that step was performed, and the results were like you can almost smell the roses. That they saw any objective arbitrator had to see that I pose zero risk to Canada and my life is a
Hmm.
risk in Jordan.
Yeah.
And I was about to be released. Right about there, I receive a call or I would get told, hey, call your lawyer firm. So I talked to Mr. Edelman, and this was the last time I had a conversation with the now Justice Peter Edelman, and he said, listen, I've been just appointed as a BC Supreme Court judge. I am going to have uh, to relinquish your file. You're in the hands of Erica. Apologies to Erica, but Erica knows that I was always uh, I favored Peter as he's the more experienced, more
Hmm.
uh uh I'm not gonna say like there's nothing bad to be said about Erica. I just like
No,
if
no.
you have the choice between the owner of the firm representing you or right.
100%.
So
Yeah.
he's like, don't worry, you're in good hands. No, I'm not,
Hmm.
and Erica was definitely and is a capable lawyer, and
Hmm.
and here I am sitting talking to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. She did a good
So,
job.
but that was the goodbye conversation, is what I'm
Hmm.
trying to get at.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's a good man on the bench. I've read some rulings that he has written, and some of them have been about people I know in prison, and I can, people I actually have met. I'm like, ah, you got a good read on this guy. All right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so he's a very astute, very, very, very well, very intelligent man. And in fact, one day, if we get a chance for me to play to you something from the proceedings, I will play
Hmm.
it to you, the whiny government lawyers speaking, and then you
Please
can
do.
hear,
Yeah. So we can
yeah,
laugh.
and then you can hear him right after that, and then you're like, wow, the caliber
Yeah.
of lawyer and representation. They don't. The government doesn't attract the best talent,
No.
you know. It's-
They attract yes people. That's all they attract. They attract people who are willing to be like, to say, "Oh, that was a clerical error." Right? That's who they want. They want people who are like, "We would never do that on purpose." Right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
funny you say that because the 6 counts of having and making explosives, that was
Hmm.
Not just a clerical error. It was, according to them, an artifact of the actual software they used, that it automatically populated the charges on its own.
And nobody decided to read it. I mean, it is tough to assume that they can read, though, after some of the things they do.
Oh, if you want some humor stories, I can fill you in on a number. But
Oh, I'm sure.
so at this stage, this is hilarious. We decided I'm sick of life in prison.
Yeah, of course.
4 years. And I'm
Yeah.
willing to go to a halfway house because at that time, Canadian immigration was off because there was no detention centers. So they
Mhm.
started to offer this community programs where like they try to put you out in the community, but they have to refer you to
Mhm.
this program.
Yeah.
And it's in halfway houses, places where they take parolees.
Yeah.
And we figured, okay, I will qualify for this.
Mhm.
My detention is long. It's been all 2 years on the immigration part alone.
Wow.
B, I'm not a threat. C, most likely I will be re-engaging in some kind of work. And we
Mhm.
figured we make an application to any halfway house who takes murderers and petty thieves and criminals. They look at my application and be like, "Oh yeah, we'll house this guy, no problem." We figured that was a done deal.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
and we needed the government referral. They needed to refer me to that program. That was the one
Yeah.
step. And obviously they would not. They prefer me in prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we concocted this very, and this for the government side, they will be hearing this for the first time. It was a bluff. It was a bluff. We weren't like this was not supposed to be approved by the judge.
Yeah.
We concocted a alternative to detention plan.
Yeah.
I go to live with one of my friends in Enderby, BC,
Mhm.
in the middle of nowhere, a small town. And he will supervise me not to do any internet activities and not to do any like parole conditions, not no guns,
Yeah.
no. I won't go except if I have to work, and then I will change the
Mhm.
conditions and I'll start. It's almost like house arrest,
Yeah.
almost. But
Yeah. So basically like a conditional sentence almost.
yes,
Yeah.
and we will put. Get this, I'm a national security threat. We will put a significant amount of $2,000 as a bond. And that was the plan, in the
Yeah.
hope that the judge will reject it, but dictate to CBSA to refer me to the halfway house.
Nice.
That was the bluff.
Yeah.
The person that's holding that hearing that day on August 8th, or sorry, August 3rd of 2019, I
Mhm.
don't remember his name. He goes back for a half hour, comes back and he says, "All right, I like this plan. Let's just correct a couple of these conditions, and you are released to Enderby." Uh,
Excellent.
we couldn't believe it, nor
No
could the
doubt.
government believe it.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're scrambling and they file on they CBSA. We used a lot of they, but they a lot is the
Mhm.
government here.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. The CBSA files an appeal, and in the immigration arena, sadly, if they file the appeal, it stops the release order. So I'm still held in prison until the appeal is looked into. The appeal takes a long time to go, and it doesn't happen until September 4th.
Mhm.
Uh, and that was the day for my next 30-day detention review, remember? And
Yep.
the worry was that I will get detained again for 30 days, but and that other appeal would not have happened, and I will be stuck in a gray area where there is two conflicting orders, and they will hold me again for another long time. But just before that 30-day detention review gets started, everybody is in court. I'm on camera. Everybody is in court. Erica,
Hmm.
my lawyer, runs into the court. This is a scene from a movie again. She runs
Yeah.
into a court with her purse barely hanging on her shoulder. Her jacket is flailing open. She's got a
Hmm.
bundle of papers rolled up like a bat. And she runs in, stands in front of the camera, and she says, "We don't need this hearing no more. The appeal was rejected." And I was to be released right at that moment.
Nice.
And I can't
Excellent.
believe it. This is, except they had no preparation. For me, to be released, my friend had to come and pay the
Yeah.
$2,000. And that wasn't planned because no,
Hmm.
we expected the gray area. So
Yeah.
they decided that they're gonna release me the next morning based on my friend coming down from Inderby and I just can't believe it. Erica's trying to convince me. It's like, no, no, you're gonna be released. This is not another
Yeah.
one of those where you get released, then out again.
Yeah.
You are free tomorrow. And
Yeah. Where they just change the handcuffs from one set to another, right? Yeah.
my goodness, man. And then my friend drove all the way from Enderby, and I remember making him stop along the way so I can hug a tree. I've
For
not,
sure.
I have not seen a tree that close in 4 years. I've seen it from
Wow.
windows and far away. I was in a concrete jungle. I need, I needed to touch nature. That's
For sure.
so that's not the whole story though, but that's a good
Hmm.
run of it.
Well, and why don't we do that? I really appreciate that, Adam. Because I'd like to talk to you again. Obviously, there's just so much for us to talk through, and we've been talking for a couple hours. I think this is a perfect length for the first episode, if that's okay with you.
Are you gonna cut it
Um,
down and cut some of the ahs and pause, or are
yeah,
you just gonna let
I'm gonna pass it off to our producer and have him just go through it and give a listen and then just kind of edit accordingly.
and if there
But
are
what we
any dates that I'm wrong or anything that we need to re-record, I can like I
Well, and
can,
and here's what we like to do. We like to just present it
yeah.
as full as possible without
Or we
too
can
many
address
edits.
it later, is what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking like I'd love to because your story is so full and rich with details. Obviously, there's so many different kinds of details that I mean, if it's up to me, I get to talk to you a couple more times, like because I've
That's
just had
fine.
a
I look, I do not, first you're gonna have to push my book a few times. That's the only way I make money
let's push it,
on
let's
this.
push it.
But so I don't but I'm not trying to become a millionaire on this. I stand
I
before you as a messenger. The system is broken. And actually, let me
Mhm.
just grab one of the books so I can and
Yeah,
refill my
please.
coffee. Can we have a minute break? I refill my
Oh,
coffee,
sure.
grab a book, and then we can talk about the book for a bit.
Sounds good.
All right.
Hour two break. And so for our listeners just out there, as we take this little pause, keep your eyes open for not only the blog, but of course for Adam's book. As you can tell by this podcast so far, it's been incredibly rich and detailed. Yes, we've tried to obviously allow humor to be a part of both of his coping and mine in terms of understanding how absolutely violent and harmful our prison system is, regardless of what level a person comes in at. Anyway, I won't take up too much more time. that's a good time. Oh, let me just pause it there.
Ah, so,
Right on.
so are we recording still?
We are, you betcha. We'll pull that little 5 minutes out of here. Yeah.
So, this is my book, The Imprisoned Blogger. And by the way, the photo on the book,
Yeah.
everything here is original. So the photo on the book is my actual notes from prison for one of the stories in the book. If
Hmm.
you can tell me whoever is listening, you can figure out which story it is
Hmm.
and email us. You can figure out a way to email us and figure out a way to get to us through the back of the book. There's the imprisonedblogger.com,
Okay.
theimprisonedblogger.com. So if you
And
figure
where can
out,
people buy this book, Othman?
you can, it's sadly it's on Amazon, but I'm
Okay.
using them to fight back against them.
We got to do it.
And through the web page, it will lead you to the link, or you can just
Okay.
search the imprisoned blogger in Amazon, and it'll lead you to it.
Okay. And so what I did mention too, while you were away, I just kind of did a brief little thing
So hold on.
directing people to the website. Yeah.
But before that, I wanted to continue about this note because if
Oh,
you figure
yes,
it
please
out,
do. Sorry.
if you figure out which note from which story,
Okay.
you will get a gift. So
Mhm.
you just get a hold of us, figure out which story these are the notes for, and you will get a sweater or a hat.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
and we will give you a couple of choices. Well, I
Yeah.
often, if you ever seen any of the videos that we present, I often wear a Gaza Strong sweater, uh,
Right on.
or you can get something that has to do with where I live in Christina Lake, BC.
Oh, right on.
Maybe one day you'll visit.
Beautiful up there.
Let's
Yeah.
get back to the book.
Yes,
So,
please.
I told you about the catalyst of the book,
Yep.
the story of Abdu, and the book has two halves, two main parts of it. One is the part that is uh, in detention, and
Mm.
the other
Okay.
part is activism. And that
Okay.
part is put in there so it allows you to understand the kind of writing I have written in the past, or I will continue to write, or speech that I will engage in,
Hmm.
and why governments consider that, any government would consider that dangerous to them.
Hmm.
I end
Yeah.
the book towards the very end with an open letter to Justice Butler and Justice Edelman, as like, here I'm catching back with you guys, who understands the case, especially a novel case that examined the line of freedom of expression.
Hmm.
Then two justices that are involved in it studied this case from A to Z. So
Yeah.
I end the book with that and a poem that I perform live often. After
Hmm.
that, I write a little poem here. It's called "To Look Upon the Pine Trees Up Close." I usually perform
Okay.
that live to whoever buys my book,
Hmm.
in person or on stage. So sadly, I won't be doing it on the audio because it's
That's
that
fair.
special extra thing you get if you're buying a book in person.
100%. That's fair. Yeah. And we'll have to
About
read the
freedom.
book to get the poem. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about freedom. And if you need, like, you have to read it.
Mhm.
Freedom means it's very Canadian, by the way, but it's written by this Palestinian refugee.
Oh,
And
I think you're a Canadian as far as I'm
but from
concerned.
the title, like "To Look Upon the Pine Trees Up Close," that's a very
Mhm.
Canadian title for a very Canadian poem.
Very
Uh,
much so.
because it's inspired. So I don't, again, I despise nationalism, and
Hmm.
I consider myself a citizen of Earth. I take
Hmm.
inspiration out of nature. Uh, I'm here. So what am I going to talk about other than the pine tree? I told you I
Yeah.
hugged the
No.
tree when I left prison. So
Yeah.
you can
That's amazing.
imagine. Yeah. So
Well, and
I'd
those
like
folks who are
to go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Sorry, I was
No,
just
no, you
babbling.
go ahead. Then I'm pausing. So switch.
I was babbling. It's okay. I was gonna say like the fact that like when you say that you hug the tree, it's like what we try to do to stay grounded, right? Is to put our feet in the grass, to do these things. It's why they're important, right? So I know that it's funny to say hug a tree, but it makes perfect sense to reconnect you with the land, right? Once because you were separated from it.
Yes, and I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about my other project. I have
Hmm.
a project called Project 1513, and that is the number of days I spent illegally detained in Canada.
Wow.
I wish to plant a tree per day I was illegally detained in Canada. I wish to plant those trees on Sinai territory because that's the tribe of the area that I'm in. I'm in
Hmm.
contact with a number of elders, and hopefully we can do that. Make a project out of it, maybe dedicate a little park.
Yeah.
Uh,
What
we
was the
call it
name of the nation that you're on again? Sorry.
Sinai, Sinixt.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I just want to make sure I get that right because that's the nation where you're on.
Yes, so I do, when I do my book talks, I do my land acknowledgement in a very unique manner.
Mm.
I talk about the similarities of this land and what happened to the Sinai, and my ancestral village in Alwalaja and what happened to my grandparents.
Yeah.
And it's often shocking to North American
Oh.
audience to see it in those terms.
Well, and when North American audiences typically learn about the Nakba, they usually learn about it from a Zionist perspective. They don't learn about it from the perspective of the folks who were being murdered, right? And so being able to understand that from a different perspective, I think really does connect all land together, right? Like being from that,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty incredible.
That's the point that I try to drive by opening my book talk with that as I try to connect
Hmm.
the land that I'm standing on with the land that I left, and the history
Hmm.
of all mankind is somehow connected. Uh,
Yeah. Well, it's powerful. I got goosebumps as you're talking. So
well, I
yeah,
that's so I'm not gonna do this because I really want you to set up a book talk for me in
yep,
your neck of the
we're gonna do
woods, and
that.
then I would come and do that there, and hopefully some audience will fill up the room, and we can
Hmm.
actually make them uh, contemplate about the
Yeah,
similarities that are in your
yeah.
face.
And
Speaking
I'm
of
looking forward to that. Yeah.
speaking of similarities and differences,
Hmm.
I'll read you one of the very shortest stories in the book, and
Okay.
it is about similarities and differences. It's called
Okay.
Christmas in Jail.
Okay.
All right, so it's a Muslim detainee or prisoner perspective on Christmas
Okay. Right on.
with some pseudo humor. Because I've
Yeah.
been in North
Excellent.
America for 20 some years, you know, Christmas has somehow grown on like no, I won't say,
Yeah.
well, let me read. So
Sure.
you just get the whole thing. And
Right on.
hopefully I can do a good job reading this and you won't have to edit my bloopers. So, Christmas in jail. My first holiday season in jail was very sad. As a Muslim, I never celebrated Christmas, but I had many Christian friends, and the infectious festive spirit had its influence on me. I also enjoyed the days I got off as a mini vacation. The all white snowy landscapes of northern British Columbia in winter were captivating. I would go into the woods just near the edge of town and enjoy the solitude. Sometimes a friend or two, or sorry, sometimes a friend or two would come along, and we would let our dogs run around. Inhaling the crisp, cold air was rejuvenating. The sound of snow crunching beneath my feet rang more harmonious and soothing than a well composed symphony. Oh, the simple things in life. This Christmas, though, things were different. I sat up at night reflecting on the not so subtle changes. My landscape was that of a poorly painted brick wall in any direction I looked. The silence was replaced by inmates quarreling over a peanut butter cup or a chocolate bar that one of them had lost in a poker game. And having failed to pay a debt, someone was about to get beaten up over it. The jingles I heard periodically were of keys which the guard was shaking as he walked up and down the unit performing security checks. The sound of something being dragged across the floor was not Santa's jolly sleigh in some parade bringing smiles to kids, but rather a mop bucket being dragged around by a grumpy trustee, who also happened to be dressed in red, while screaming at everyone for spilling coffee and leaving stains all over the floor. New Year's Eve was quiet. No reason to party in this place, and there was never enough jailhouse brew to get more than a couple of people wasted. But right at midnight, the inmates at North Fraser Pretrial Center rang in the new year by banging on the doors to their cells and kicking the top bunks from below. It was loud, and I bet it could be heard from outside the building. I was not sure if everyone participated. It startled me at the beginning, and I stayed in my bunk listening to the pandemonium. I like to think that there were ones who were really happy amongst the banging crowd, but I heard more anger than anything else. I wondered what it would look like to someone observing from the outside. Primates banging angrily on their walls, kicking and screaming in cages stacked 3 stories high in a number of buildings, sprawled over a large compound. Of course, there was that one guy who continued to bang on his door, hollering and hooting after all had stopped. Someone had to finally yell at him to shut the fuck up. That snapped me out of my Planet of the Apes nightmare. I'm not sure if I went to sleep after that.
Hmm. Wow.
What do you think of that?
I like it. Yeah, I was taken away by your descriptors. Like I just, yeah, by your descriptions. I really appreciate your writing style. Yeah.
Did I bring you into the environment?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I could hear the guy yelling at everybody for spilling shit. I totally could.
And that
Yeah.
was I was writing from the scene. I didn't make it
Hmm.
anything this up. You can ask
Yeah.
anybody that goes to North Fraser Pretrial Center, what is
Mm.
the New Year ritual that everybody does right at midnight, and they will tell you this what happens.
Yeah.
And
Wow. Well,
I,
thank you for bringing us in there. Um,
I don't
so
know if
we're
I
going to
don't
work.
know if you'd want to thank me for that.
Well, I thank you because like that's sharing a part of your world, right? A part of the moment that you were there, and obviously none of us who haven't been to prison could relate really, but to bring us in that far is pretty. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. But I'm a fan of the truth first of all, and I'm also a fan of like yeah, like reality. Reality is what it is, you know. I want to thank you for all the time you've taken today, Othman, and we're going to talk again. I'm once we get off this podcast, I will message you and we'll set up a date. Um, all that stuff in terms of like a book talk, I would love that. I'd love to be able to have you come out here. I don't know if we'll be able to raise the money, but we're going to try because I would love that. And and we can talk about all those details after. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But what I want to leave folks with is, um, well, first of all, your story that you just read, it was awesome. And I want to encourage folks to, first of all, buy your book, okay, The Imprisoned Blogger. And I really want to encourage our listeners to not just look at your website with the blogs and stuff that you've written, but also take an interest in looking around your own world for folks who may have tried to tell you that they've been treated poorly by the police and you didn't listen. And part of that, I know for myself, when I was younger, I always thought the police were looking out for us. But once I realized they weren't, it was an immediate turnaround, right? That it's not about looking out for us, it's about looking out for the crown. Or in the States, it's looking out for the whatever. And this is just the way things are. I wish that you didn't have to go through what you went through. I really do as a person, right? Like as a human. Because I know when we talked on the phone, we talked about the nationalism. Because I'm not a nationalist. I stopped believing in nationalism when I moved to Canada from the States. It was obvious to me that nationalism was part of the problem, right? It wasn't a part of the solution. And so that's been that part of my life too. And so I really appreciate that because if a flag gets in the way of humans, then we've got problems, right? Like there's just nothing should come between us in terms of those kinds of things. They don't have to. And I know that they do at this stage of human evolution. And honestly, anyway, I'm going to stop talking. I just want to encourage our listeners to pay attention to what's going on out there. Check out the Imprisoned Blogger. Keep your eyes open for Othman coming back on, and for maybe coming to Calgary and doing a book talk. Because in my mind, that would be fabulous. I don't know how else to word it.
So the imprisoned blogger is a grassroots. Right now, there is something. If you go to the imprisonedblogger.com, you can follow this grassroots campaign. We have a number of volunteers that work with us, and we are trying to raise awareness about not just problems within Canada. We actually tackle international issues. We address for example, the genocide in Palestine or the ongoing problem in Sudan. We know that mainstream media doesn't tell you a lot of stories and doesn't tell you enough of the truth, and we try to dig deeper. We would like you to follow the Imprisoned Blogger, the social media accounts that are run by other volunteers other than me, because the government would
Mhm.
like to say they're run by me. We would like you to we would encourage you to share the message, amplify our voice. We're not scared of taking the fight to the government. Obviously, as you just heard from my story, I've already spent time in detention. over my opinions. The volunteers that are with me, they've put their money and time and effort, and they've put their some of them are willing to be detained. Hopefully, nobody gets detained, but
Yeah,
we're
hopefully.
trying. So, as we are trying to be the voice, please join us. Please amplify our message. And if you have a story with immigration detention or with police brutality, or if you are an activist of any sort where the police have uh, come after you for your activism, please reach out to us. We will try to present your story the way you would want to tell it to. And we're willing to work with other podcasts if you'd like to bring us along too. So please reach out to your friends. Again,
100%.
uh, money is not the objective from selling the books. Selling the books has an objective of a message that the system is broken. And as you read through the book, you'll notice that I've included stories of people of different backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different from different continents, because I wanted to show the reader that the system is broken for everybody, not just for brown people or black people or Hispanics. It's broken even for white people. And it's
Yeah.
even broken for whatever is called Canada, or that whatever the crown represents Canada as. It doesn't even do its job.
Yeah. Not even close. Yeah. It doesn't do anything that it promises the people it does. And I think with folks like yourself sharing stories of this nature, that's obvious, right? Is that our country is operating under the apartheid system still, and operating under a system of discrimination that goes so much deeper than one or two generations ago, right? Like this is embedded in the system.
And it's last note, and
Yeah,
I will let you go. But it's funny that you
perfect.
mentioned the apartheid thing, because uh, I'm not saying the restrictions that the Canadian government are putting on me are exactly the same as those South African apartheid regime tried to put on
Hmm.
Nelson Mandela himself and his
Hmm.
fellow activists. By the way, Nelson Mandela was, again, as he says, just a face, and many others have joined his struggle. Uh, but anyways, those restrictions that I'm talking about are not the same, but they're their kin. They're cousins.
Hmm.
They're of the
Yeah,
same family, of the
yeah,
same ideology. The
yeah.
publication bans, the prevention from telling the
Mhm.
story, prevention of travel, it's all the same. It's just worded in 21st century technology.
That's right. To be polite. Yeah, it's worded to be polite now.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Well, thank you so much, sir. We'll be in touch. If you don't mind, do you have any publicity photos you can send me that I can attach to our post when this comes out?
sure. Yes, something
Awesome.
better than this
Awesome.
guy staring at.
Oh, no, no, this video is gonna be for everyone to see, but I like to post pictures too. And I've got your book cover and stuff that I'm gonna post with this podcast because I want everyone just to see that this is like right in their face, right? So,
Sure. I will send you some photos. I'm not very photogenic, as you can tell, but
ah, I
my
think you're fine. Yeah.
my friend, the editor of the book, she is also a photographer, and she's taken some good photos of me someday. So I will
Right
send.
on.
Thank you. I
Perfect.
appreciate it. I look forward to do the next event and hopefully have a book talk in Calgary.
100%. I can't wait. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, so that was wow. I wanted to try to take a couple minutes after Othman signed off here, but what a powerful episode. I really hope like you share this, you take a look into the readings that he's done and that he continues to do. And we are like I talked to this gentleman for an hour and a bit on the phone a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, uh, yeah, everything just hit me right in the heart, the heart and the brain. So anyway, enjoy this episode, and we look forward to talking to Othman again and to other folks who um, are willing to share their stories. And I just learned about another person from the Calgary Communist Society or Assembly. I can't remember how it's worded at the university. They were originally trespassed, even though they were students of the University of Calgary. They were originally trespassed, but apparently the trespass has been lifted now. So if you heard that yesterday, I just saw a posting on it, but check it out just to be sure. Again, thank you so much for listening and for supporting us. We're trying our best to work it out so that we can get way more guests for the podcast as we go along. But also, you know, sometimes it's just fun to talk some shit. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed, and we look forward to the next one. All right, take good care.